Hey Beans, and welcome to a video in which I'm going to tell you the entire story of Animal Jam. I've done this before, but Animal Jam actually changed the story in the past. No one really knows why, but I believe it's because they wanted to make the adventures, and the adventures wouldn't have worked if they'd used the old lore, so they made up a new story that made adventures more possible. A few things in this video are speculation based on some very solid facts, but a lot of it is straight from Animal Jam's Jamaa Legends blog that actually tells the story of Animal Jam straight from Animal Jam's mouth. So I will tell you which parts are 100% fact, and which parts are just highly supported theories, and at the end I will explain what exactly all this knowledge means nowadays, because trust me, it has a big impact on how the game will be shaped in the future. So anyways Beans, let's go ahead and start talking about the story of Animal Jam. Now, this may seem a little weird because most of you know that the underwater lands were added after the regular lands, but Animal Jam did begin underwater. We can't be totally sure of this, but everything in the map points to this idea, and it does make sense because that is how most lands form, and Animal Jam was created by National Geographic, and National Geographic has a very good idea of, how these things work, because after all, they are basically a science company, so they know what they're talking about when it comes to this stuff. But there are a few things that point to Animal Jam having started underwater. This is largely based off of Mount Shavir. If you head over into this pond, you'll see a plesiosaur in the background. Plesiosaurs were incredibly heavy and they lived in warmer climates, both of which point towards Animal Jam having started underwater. You see, there's no way that a plesiosaur could have gotten here from the ocean and frozen. Mount Shavir is completely landlocked on the map, and there's no body of water big enough to hold these gigantic creatures next to it. Furthermore, the plesiosaurs existed in warmer climates, so it makes no sense that it would appear inside of this cold climate. So therefore, the only way this plesiosaur could have gotten here is if Animal Jam started underwater. And then once the water left, we were just left with the rough outlines of lands crafted by currents and various ways the water shaped the world. It would also explain how we got coral canyons. I mean, have you ever thought about why that's called coral canyons? Maybe because it began underwater where there's coral. And also, that's how canyons are formed, if you didn't know. Canyons are created by giant streams of water over millions of years washing away at rock. That's how some of the most amazing natural spectacles are created. Anyways, now let's get into some more confirmed lore that's actually verified by Animal Jam. So from the Jamaa legend stories, we know that Animal Jam has existed for a very long time, and at its start there were hundreds of species, not just the 20 or 30 we have today, that roamed all around the land. It is also confirmed by Animal Jam that these species did come from the Earth, and then were moved to Jamaa later. So that means that Jamaa is on another planet besides Earth. Anyways, the two guardian spirits, or basically gods, but Animal Jam didn't want to say gods, were Mira and Zeus. Now, the way an animal could exist in Jamaa is if it had a heartstone. So what Mira and Zeus did is they gave every single animal a heartstone that represented their species. In the beginning, all of the heartstones were kept in the Temple of Zeus. However, nowadays, the place is just called the Lost Temple of Zeus. So we don't have total confirmation what the Temple of Zeus was, but it was probably either what this statue used to be, or this giant elephant statue where you can play the Temple of Trivia. So we can't totally know, but I think our best guess is that it's this temple over here, where all the heartstones were kept by each species. However, it didn't take long before the animals started fighting with one another. Everyone turned against each other, and it got so bad to the point where all the animals split into a bunch of different groups, and no one wanted to talk to anyone else from the other groups. Out of this time of disorder and chaos, it is said that the phantoms rose. However, they didn't just rise out of nowhere like they did in the original lore.
Today, the world of Jamaa is home to millions of animals living in peace. Yet a long time ago, this world we loved was nearly lost. Nobody knew where the phantoms came from, but they left Jamaa in ruins.
However, they didn't just rise out of nowhere like they did in the original lore. It's actually confirmed where they came from, and it's said that they came from the Dark Portal.
It's even worse than I thought! Something big is coming through that portal! We don't have much time!
But there was a big problem with this. You see, when the animals all split up into different factions, some of them took their heartstones with them, and they were also more divided, so they were a lot weaker. So when the phantoms came in, they were able to defeat certain species very easily and just take their heartstone, completely vanishing them from Jamaa. So they did this with hundreds of different tribes of animals.
Okay, everyone, hold tight while I see what we're up against. Yup, the other animals are here all right, with at least 10 phantom guards.
Until there were only 6 tribes left, and those were the original starter animals. They all realized they needed to team up to win, because Mira and Zeus had just tried to step in and purify everything, but it wasn't working. There were just so many phantoms, and the animals realized it was their duty.
Those poor animals need our help to escape.
So Mira and Zeus realize that this is basically their only shot to repel the Phantoms.
The animals gathered for a last stand.
So they team up with the animals, and they choose one animal from each of the 6 species and give them what's called an Alpha Stone that gives them these superpowers. And they chose animals from each species that had certain traits that they thought would work well in a team. And I'm sure you guys see where this is going, but basically they chose the 6 alphas you all know and love.
And then the alphas appeared.
So basically, under the power of these awesome alphas, they are able to repel the Phantoms and kick them out of Jamaa. Unfortunately, there's a little bit of a problem. You see, at the very last second, the Phantoms are able to latch onto Zeus and take him back through the dark portal. So now Zeus is missing. And as we see in this cutscene by Animal Jim, when they took him, they basically took whatever was behind his mask and then left his mask behind. Now, I have theorized in the past that he is actually a toucan, but I don't know how accurate that might be, and we'll see as time goes on. However, whatever's behind that mask was taken and his mask is left. Maybe they just took his soul, maybe it was another type of animal, maybe he's just some sort of spirit or god. Maybe we'll never know. But anyways, his one true love, Mira, decides that it's her job to jump in and rescue him, and so she comes along with him and dives into the dark portal right before it closes. So that's why we haven't seen Mira and Zeus for so long, and why it's so momentous that we start seeing evidence of Mira in the newest adventure, The Phantom Badlands. So yes, woohoo, the Phantoms are gone, but the land is still polluted, a lot like you can see in the bottom of the adventure base camp. So what the alphas do is they combine the power of all their alpha stones and they work together to de-pollute the land, and all of a sudden the land is all pure and everyone is all happy again. What's very interesting though is we see in the Phantom Badlands at the very end that Mira has this feather that can also purify lands that appears to be much stronger than the alpha stones that all had to be collected together and, channeled, and they took a long time to defeat these polluted lands. So here's where things get interesting again. It's believed by a lot of people, including myself, that the Phantoms were added to the game to represent humanity as a whole, and to kind of implant the seed in people's heads that it wasn't a good idea to try and mess with nature or to pollute it or to ruin the beauty of the natural world, and that we should let animals be as they are and let the environment continue the way it is. I mean, humans are definitely notorious for destroying the natural world and causing huge oil spills and building giant factories and polluting the atmosphere and just killing animals and chopping down rainforests, and just basically everything that could happen to ruin the environment has happened. And the same thing is true of the Phantoms. They come into this beautiful natural world and they wreak havoc throughout it, so I think it makes sense that Animal Jam is making a commentary on humans with their addition of the Phantoms, and that's why we have to fight them off. And hopefully it inspires a kid someday to go out and stop all this terrible slaughtering of the environment. Anyways, back to the real lore. After this huge victory, the Alphas go out and they get some of the Heartstones back, but not all of them. The Phantoms are still in control of a lot of things. They still have tons of land surrounding Jamaa. They still have Mira and Zeus, which are very important, and they still have the Heartstones of many animals. And remember that the only way an animal can be in Jamaa is if there is a Heartstone in the Temple of Zeus or somewhere in Jamaa that represents it. That's why every single time there's a new animal added, it says, oh, we found a new Heartstone, because they have gone out and captured the Heartstones from the Phantoms and brought them back, therefore bringing back another animal that used to be in Jamaa that can no longer be there because their Heartstone is gone. But anyways, they come back with a few Heartstones, and that's why we have 20 or 30 animals nowadays, but all of the Heartstones have not been found, and therefore all of the animals are not back in Jamaa, and not all the Phantoms have been driven out of all of the lands. They need to be purified first, and that can't happen unless we get rid of the Phantoms, so it may take a little while to get some new lands, and that's probably why Animal Jam is so slow with releasing lands, is they want to be accurate to the lore and prove that the Phantoms can stand up against the player. But anyways, Beans, thank you so much for watching. I really hope this helps you in your conspiracy ideas. I definitely made a lot of conspiracies before reading this whole Jamaa Legends thing, and just based them off of the old lore without checking the new lore, so I didn't actually know what was going on. So if you're going to look at conspiracies, I'd highly recommend you go check out the Jamaa Legends journal and check out exactly what's going on in the Animal Jam lore nowadays, because a lot of my conspiracies have been disproved by simply checking one of those pages. So anyways, Beans, I can't wait for some more updated conspiracies. I feel a little silly for going this long without realizing the new lore was just available online. But it was fun theorizing while I could, and now I'll have plenty of new theories with actual accurate information. Now, don't be fooled, some of my theories still hold, but I feel a little silly now for uploading videos like Zeus never died when it literally says on Animal Jam's page that Zeus never died. So anyways, Beans, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.
You